What's good, everybody? Hope everybody is well. Hope everyone is well. Thank you to all the new subs. Appreciate it. Hit that rate, subscribe, share button, hit that thumbs up. Let's keep going and growing. I appreciate it. I really, really do. I really do. It's very, very humbling, very flattering. All right, so we're gonna jump into it here. So, I was scrolling through my, um, so past shows. And as I went through the past shows, right? So I mean, looking at the comment section, I came across this right here, and I'm pretty sure that this was in response to, um, how come nobody ever told me this and all that. So I want to revisit that because I know that there's a lot of anger, you know, in particular in the Black community in the United States. We have a lot of issues, man. I mean, we gotta, there's no healing unless there's confronting of the issues that we've gone through, been through, and all that. What's making that noise? It's violent. So we've been through a lot, and we got to kind of acknowledge that in order that we can't progress until we really deal with the past. And sometimes dealing with the past is ignoring it. Sometimes dealing with the past is accepting it. Sometimes dealing with the past is confronting it. And that's what I want to talk about today, right? Because we want to be able to go forward. We want to be able to move forward. But if we're really trapped in our mind about things that didn't happen and we thought that should have happened, then we got to deal with it, right? So we got to deal with it. So let's talk about it. So this idea that people in our lives should have known, and this is something that hits home for me. So this is something that I needed to do therapeutically. I needed to do this in order to progress forward in life. And this idea that sometimes the people in our life, we think that they let us down, and that could be true. But I want to give a lot of grace to the people who came before us, in particular Black folk. I want to give a lot of grace to the people who came before us, in particular the African American community and the Black folk, who really kind of they went through a lot. I want you to think about the life, in particular Black men, right? Let's just focus on Black men for a minute here, right? This idea that as a writer wrote, we missed a lot. There were things that we think that our parents should have given us. So let's for a moment here, I want to talk about what we think the Black people or Black parents should have done, Black males in particular. Think about life. Now I'm 51. Think about my father, who I never met, in his 20s. That would put him in his 70s now. I want you to think about the life of a 70-year-old 70 years later, 70 years later, right? More than likely, these people who were born in the 50s and 60s, right? Think about the racism that they dealt with. Certainly nothing. It was probably at the end of the height of the racist era, right? 1960s, et cetera, right? So I'm talking about 75 and up. I'm talking about males right now who are 75 and up. If you know any of those, right? If you know any of those, right? Black males have the lowest life expectancy, so you might not know any people who are above the age of 75. So we got to be mindful about how they grew up, and think about the educational system at that time. Think about this idea that we want our men to be emotionally intelligent, and you want them to wake up and be emotionally intelligent and all this. Think about what it took. Think about what a person like myself who's 51, right? If I was raised by an emotionally intelligent man, if that person was in my life, I might get those attributes. But if they're not in my life, I might not get those attributes. So when you talk to people today who are dealing with, people who are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, who are claimed to be not emotionally intelligent, it's because they didn't get the training about how to be that way. And listen, this takes work, and particularly for men. Let me go back to the man in his 75 and up, right? our forebears and our forefathers. And I want you to, and I'm saying this with all due respect, I want you to put some respect on these people's name, or who and what they were and are. Put some respect on your grandfathers and great uncles. These men who paved the way for us. These men who took beatings and fire hoses and dogs being sicked on them and being called the N-word every time they left the house. Think about, the time that they went out to find a job and couldn't find one. Think about the times that they were the first ones fired and the last ones hired. Think about the types of job that they had to do. Think about the racism that they endured while on the job. Think about all the times that they were passed over for promotions. Think about all the times that they were, just completely neglected. Think about the time that they were fired for looking at people the wrong way. We're talking about people who worked in the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s. Think about that. Think about the lives that they had to live. So you want that person who's going through that type of stuff to then return home and be this emotionally available type of person. Right? And fathers are protectors, right? We talk about this all the time on this channel. Fathers are protectors. Not only physically, but they're gonna protect you emotionally. My family used to ask me, how was work. I never ever told them about the foot chases I had, the fights I was in, the babies I had to save, the CPR. I never told them any of that. I tell them that now. They're like, oh, you never told us this. Yeah, because I'm protecting you, because I don't want you to be emotionally a wreck when your dad goes to work. So think about that type of protection that our forebears and our forefathers, your uncles, your grandfathers, your great uncles, experienced when they went to job and they were called the N-word. Think about the harassment that they faced when they got on a train to go to work, on the bus to go to work. Think about all that they might have endured. I'm not saying every single black person in every single city. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that this was a thing. And so when you say that our parents didn't do X, they might not have known to do it. This idea of emotional availability, emotional intelligence is a fairly new concept. It's fairly new, right? This stuff started to be developed in the 70s and 80s. And by the time it hits pop culture, it's the 1990s and then 2000s. So this concept that we want men to be and all this is fairly new. It's fairly new. And if it's new within our culture, right, it wasn't in the psyche of those people. So these men would go to work. They would wake up early, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning to go haul trash. Remember, this is why Dr. King was killed. Dr. King was killed standing up for men, in particular black men, in Memphis, Tennessee during a strike over the garbage strike. That's when he was killed. It was the stance on that. It was the stance on that. I always look at my hat later on. I see all these different stuff in my hat. So I don't know what's up with that. Right? So what was going on during that strike, the Memphis Strike? The garbage men were, in particular the black ones, were being mistreated. If it rained, they would send all the garbage men home, and then if it stopped raining, they would come back. They would call them back, but the black ones wouldn't be called back. The black garbage men wouldn't be called back. So they're missing out on pay. They were paid less. Primarily, again, the harassment, all this type of stuff that was going on at that time. Think about that, right? And you want this man to come home and talk about drapes and curtains and all this. No, this man, and he's probably called the N-word on the bus ride there, on the train ride there. He got harassed by the police going there, got harassed by the police coming back. This is all, this is the life that these men were dealing with. And so some of them dealt with alcoholism, as my grandfather did. That's why he and my grandmother end up, not being together. She said she loved him, but he drank too much. This is how they dealt with coping mechanisms. Drinking. Coming home in the house and just cracking open a beer, just trying to escape. And I'm doing all this I'm enduring all this pain and all this type of stuff for my family. Think about that. And these are the people who had jobs, who stayed there. Think about all the men. Think about all the men who didn't have jobs. still being, they go to work and being harassed and told you're not good enough, you can't get a job, and X, Y, and Z, and all this kind of stuff. What's this dude looking at? So think about that. I really want you to think about that. So then we get this idea that they didn't do enough, right? They didn't teach us about economics. They didn't teach us about, how to treat women, talk to women. And I know I made the video, and I'm saying that we got to be forgiving of this type of thing. We got to have an understanding about their life, how they lived, how they operated, how they moved. And if we're not forgiving it and accepting of that, of what they went through, man, we tend to look at them like, man, they weren't good enough. Why didn't they teach me this? Why didn't they teach us that? Listen, it's a tough thing to have to manipulate through the world where you're hated, as black men. We're hated, and then come home and try to deal with a family and kids who are pulling at you. There's a guy, Larry Elder. Larry Elder is in his 70s. So Larry Elder tells a story. You can look him up. He's told a story numerous times in different platforms. I don't agree with a lot of what Larry Elder says, but he does give insight into this one story. His father, now Elder's in his 70s. His father would have to be in his 90s if he's still alive. He tells a story about, his father, tried to get a job, washing toilets at some place, if I remember the story correctly, right? And so he tried to get a job at some place. I'm gonna have to get gas, so I might have to pause this. Tried to get a job at some place, and the lady was giving a hard time, because at this time, you had to walk, colored walk in this way, white people walk in that way. So he walked into the white way, and they're like, oh, you got to go into the colored entrance. So he goes out, walks in back to the colored entrance, and it's the same lady, right? So what kind of mental frustrations is already starting off with, right? And I have a serious issue with customer service. Let me pause this here. All right, stop and get gas there. So Larry Elder, again, so his father walks in to the same lady, right? So the frustration and all that. So then he starts off at business. I think he opens up, if I remember the story correctly, right? His father then starts a business, and he's working at this other job. The business he started was a restaurant. And Elder brings up this story because he's like, man, I still, I had these feelings about my father. I thought he was insensitive. I thought he was mean. I thought he was cruel. I thought he was, X, Y, and Z. This lady, man, I don't know why she did this. I can't get out of here. It's freaking late. Yeah, I can't make that. I'm at this gas station here, and this lady doesn't know how to park, so she blocked everybody off. So, so I probably got to edit all this out. Yeah, me and my driving, right? Oh, this guy's leaving. Okay, I can leave. Listen, people, don't be selfish when you're parking, driving, and all that, man. Give some consideration. This lady parked so far away from the gas pump that nobody else can get by her and stuff, right? All right. So Larry Elder's telling the story because he felt like his father was mean, he was cruel, he didn't talk to him, he was always angry, right? He just thought his father was just a SOB. This is what Elder's saying. So then when Elder is in his 30s or 40s or something like that, he's an older guy, right? 30s, 40s, 50s, right? He goes and has a conversation with his dad, who still owned the restaurant that he started all those years later. So he's like, Dad, why didn't you ever like me? Why didn't you ever like me? And so his dad tells him, listen, boy, I did everything I could to make sure that you and your brothers were taken care of, the family was taken care of. I worked these jobs. I was tired all the time. So if I didn't like you, I wouldn't have done all this stuff. Now, is that the emotional intelligence and the hugs and kisses that we would expect and all that? No, no. But think about life as a black man back then. And this comes off, and we try to treat we tend to treat our people, our neighbors, neighbors, but our family members in the same way that we saw. So I'm asking you to give these people some grace. Just like Larry Elder had a 4-hour conversation with him. He hadn't talked to him for years. You got to listen to the story. He tells him obviously much better than I. But he hadn't talked to his dad in years. And he's like, one day he's sick of it. He's just going to go have it out with him. Goes to the restaurant, sits there. After the restaurant closes, he and his father talk for 4 hours. And it cleared the air, and he realized everything was good. I loved you. I provided. So I'm asking you to do the same thing with these people. If your family and loved one are around, male or female, mother or father, right? Have a conversation with them. Tell them about how you grew up. Get it off your chest. Get it off your chest. And you'll find out that maybe they really did love you, or that they did the best that they could. Listen, I'm not saying, I'm saying this as a product of this. I had to have the same type of conversations. I had to have them. And you figure out that people did the best that they could. So are some people mean? Are some people just SOBs and not worth talking to ever again? I certainly don't doubt that is a true experience that people have, and that some people are not worth talking to ever again. But some people, if you just have a conversation with them, you'll figure out that the reasons that they didn't tell you about how to balance checkbooks, or know about stocks and bonds and doing X and Y and Z and this and that and the other, it's because they didn't know. They didn't know. And people don't know what they don't know. And I can't teach you what I don't know. And some people, have this knowledge, but they don't know how to give it. Some people have this knowledge, but they don't know how to give it. One time I bust a tire. So I go to this, a tire shop. I don't want to give people advertisements. So I go to a tire shop, right? It's, one of those chain tire shops. And so they do all the crazy stuff, put your stuff in the computer, right? All this kind of stuff so that everyone knows who you are. I hate that. As a side note, I had to go buy a cord so I could charge this phone when I'm driving. They're asking me for my phone number. Dude, can you just sell me the? Oh, we can't sell it. Now they won't sell it to you. I almost walked out. I should have just walked out. We got to stop with all this. Anyway, so they put my stuff in the computer, right? So then they take my car in the back, and they're fixing the flat and all this kind of stuff. So I had a nail in the car. But no, there was something else that was going on, and my sensors were going off, right? It was a little bit more technical. So the guy comes out. So it was an older black dude. So he comes out, and I'm asking him questions. Listen, I'm a talker. I can. I'm asking him questions. I'm inquisitive. What happened? Just any other. I don't remember specifically. And he's literally giving me one-word answers. Yeah, you had a, well, not one word, but maybe 3-sentence answers. Oh, you had a nail, or whatever it was. And I'm probing him, and finally, like you can start to think, maybe this guy doesn't like me. Maybe this guy doesn't, he doesn't want to tell me because of whatever, right? And so we tend to attribute things to a negative, nefarious idea. Maybe the guy was just, and he was an older dude. He's older than me. I mean, this wasn't that long ago. I don't think it was 50 yet. 49, 50, somewhere around there. This wasn't that long ago. So it could be that he was just a guy who just didn't know how to express himself. And maybe this is his way. He worked in his tire shop or whatever, and he wasn't used to talking to people and all that kind of stuff, right? And maybe nobody. So you got to get rid of this nefarious thinking that people have. Maybe people just don't know. They just aren't equipped for it, with it. And I want you to be very, very forgiving when you talk to your parents, and recognize that some parents have and some parents don't. And they're products of their environment, and they're products of the time, particularly for older people. They're products of their time. The school system was not the best. As far as teaching sensitivity, they probably taught us, more basic skills, math and English and stuff, because I don't know what these kids are learning today. But if you look at it, right, they weren't being taught to be sensitive and get in touch with your feelings and coddle your kids and all, they weren't taught none of that, right? Let's go out here and get this job done. Go out here and work. This is the silent generation, the baby boomers, right? This, they were the product of parents who had gone through, Civil War. Not Civil War, but the Second World War. My grandmother was born, I think, well, anyway, my grandmother, when she went through the depression, you know, buying new shoes, we're gonna fix these shoes that you got. So when you got that kind of stuff, and that kind of stuff is in your lineage, man, and then you run into, and then I want you to really kind of think about and immerse yourself mentally in the world that they were in, and then think about and contrast that with the world that we're in today, where we got talk shows and everybody's crying all over the place, and people are crying on TikTok, and you know, the Generation X, which I am, right? We grew up on watching, you know, Ricky Lake, and everybody's crying on these shows, right? Ricky Lake and Sally Jesse Raphael, right? They're running around with tissues and stuff. Everybody's crying. That wasn't a generation before. So this emotional intelligence that we are expecting men to have, and we want men to have, you got to give them some grace, man. You gotta give them some grace about that stuff, particularly your older people. So I'll wrap this up. Go out there and talk to your family, to your friends, and just figure it out, like Larry Elder did, and like I had to do. You got to have conversations, man. If you think that you're more emotionally intelligent, and if you think your parents failed you and sort of done some things and for you and with you and taught you things, maybe they just didn't know how to do it. And a lot of times I think that they hide behind that. They hide their anger and their frustration and not being able to give you things and dealing with the world. They hide it from you in order to protect you. Now, it might not seem like protection. It might seem like condemnation. It might seem like they're angry. It might seem like they're mad. But if you have a conversation, I'm pretty sure that most of the time you'll say, listen, I did the best I could. I'm sorry that you feel that way. I understand what you're dealing with, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you feel that way, but I did the best I could in order to protect you, in order to make sure that is it good enough? And I hope that would be good enough. I would not listen. I don't like this therapy that says that, you know, that it wasn't good enough and they expect it more. I don't get down with that. We got to be forgiving and forgiving, and at least and at minimum, even if they say, you know, F you and your feelings, I didn't do none of that, and they deny it. At least you did your part and you got it off your chest, and now you can feel better with whatever life decisions that you can make from here. You can either move on and never ever talk to them again, or keep them at an arm's distance. I'm just gonna talk to you during holidays. I'm not gonna, you know, do whatever. Or you can clear the air and create a much more wholesome environment for all of you. So I hope that what I said made sense. Sorry about my driving and gas issues. Let me know your thoughts, your opinions. Hit me in the comment section. I think it's worth having the conversation. Until next time, much love and peace.